the side going the other way, now I do have a telltale. So this telltale will actually be blowing just about parallel. Again, if it were here, I'd be in irons. So it's blowing just about parallel. That lets me know that I'm just off the edge of the wind. I'm in a close haul course. My sail is just on the edge of the boat. I let my crew know that I'm coming about. I vigorously shove the tiller over to this side. I duck down, I switch sides, I let go of the tiller, I switch hands to my main sheet. I wait for it, to reach that side. Once it does, I see that it's full of air. I straighten the tiller, and I'm back on a close haul course. So that's coming about. It's pretty simple. Any questions about coming about? It's again, the easier one of the two. Okay, now let's get into jibing. So for jibing, we're going to bring the boom way out. Okay, so I'm on a run. Now the wind is coming from behind me. My telltales are streaming directly ahead of me, and I'm on a run, what's called a dead run. Okay? And I need to jibe. So here's what I would do. And there's a couple different ways of jibing. I'll give you a couple different alternatives, but they're all very, very simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is stand up. So I don't want to start over here and start bearing off. So I'm going to stand up. I'm going to get in the middle of the boat and crouch down. I'm going to start bearing off by pulling the tiller away from the sail. As I do that, I'm going to switch hands by reaching around with this hand now. The other hand has the tiller. And I'm going to duck, and I'm going to move to the other side. The boom's going to fly overhead, and as soon as it gets over there, I'm going to straighten the tiller. So by the time it hits its other side, I'm already on the other side of the boat, and I've already straightened the tiller. Okay? So again, doing this in the opposite, I let my crew know that I'm jibing, I stand up, I start bearing off, I reach over and switch behind my back, so now I've got the correct hands. Keep bearing off, the boom comes flying overhead, I switch sides. By the time it gets over there, I've straightened the tiller. Okay, that's a typical jibe where you sort of wait for the boom to come across. There's a couple of variations. One is what they call a safety jibe. I don't like calling it that because I don't really consider it any safer. But some people like doing it this way. To prevent the boom from flying so far over with such tremendous velocity, which is the biggest risk of getting hit in the head with a boom, there's some alternate thing you can do, which is this. So I'm in the same scenario, I'm on a run, I'm going to jibe. The only difference is this time, before I do the jibe, before I bear off, I'm going to bring the sail all the way in, even past where it would be for a close haul, all the way directly overhead. Now I start bearing off, and I switch sides, switch hands, and then I let the boom go, and it flies out onto that side, okay? So it's very, very similar, except that I've during the bearing off process, the boom didn't fly over this way, I just let it fly out that way. So that's a safety jibe. I don't tend to do it that way, but that's one way to do it. What I tend to do is something in between. So if you want to bring this sail further up, just about halfway, not too far up, okay, so about there. What I tend to do is I do the first kind of jibe that I showed you, but I help the boom across a little bit. So I don't have to completely wait for it to do it on its own. So I stand up, I start bearing off, and I switch hands, but in this case I'm going to reach over and grab either the boom, this little spool, or maybe even just give a tug on the rope and just help the boom across. And then by the time it flies over there, I straighten the tiller and it's done. So you can do it any one of those ways. You can do it completely waiting for it to come overhead. The difference is that if you just wait for it to come overhead, your boat is going to turn a lot more, which is okay. If you help it over a little bit, your boat will turn a little bit less, and if you bring it all the way in, you're only going to get the pressure of the wind on one side. But they're all the same thing. They're all making sure that the boom flies overhead and you straighten the tiller by the end. Any questions about jibing? And again, this will all make a lot more sense to you when you're on the boat. Okay, thank you for your help. I'll meet you all back in